Hi, my name is Ivy Starnes, and I'm a gaited horse trainer in Fort Worth, Texas. Today I'm going to be talking about something that has been brought up as a topic that I should talk about. I feel like I'm repeating myself. We are talking about if you bought a gaited horse and he was gaiting when you bought him and now he's not, what happened? How did he lose his gait? Did he actually lose his gait? And did you ruin your horse for life? That's what we're talking about today, and I'm here to tell you the good news is you didn't ruin your horse. There's quite a lot of factors that go into a horse gaiting, and we're going to talk about a few of them. First, I want to tell you a story. It's an account. I say story, it really happened, so it's not really a story, it's an account. This account is of a horse that I have personally seen, and I saw the video of him, his sale video, and then I saw him after he was bought. And in the sale video, this horse was actually gaiting. And then when I saw this horse being ridden by a not unskilled rider, the horse was just pacing. What was the difference? Now, a lot of times people come to me at a clinic or walk up to me or email me and they're like, hey, I bought my horse, he was gaiting, and now he's not. And first I'm like, well, until you show me a video of the horse gaiting before you got him, I'm always skeptical as to whether the horse was actually gaiting or not. But let's say that he was gaiting and they show me a video, I have some thoughts. So going back to this horse, in this example, he was gaiting in the sale video and then they got him back and I saw him ridden and he wasn't gaiting. He was pacing. Well, here is the magic behind movies. Pause for dramatic emphasis. It's not just movies, it's the rider, it's the tack. And in this case, it literally was the tack. In the video, the horse was gaiting, but this is the really, really important but. The horse had a giant shanked bit in his mouth and the rider was pulling on it. His head was up in the air, his nose was sort of tucked in, and with all of those contortions created in his body, he was gaiting. When the owner, who is much kinder and gentler than the seller, bought this horse, he put him in a milder bit, and the horse started pacing because without that pain in his body and his mouth, he wasn't forced to gait. Now, you could be asking, could that horse ever gait? Absolutely. That horse could be trained to gait on a loose rein and in any bit. But if you were a rider who didn't know any better and you bought this horse and you saw this giant bit and you said, I'm not riding the horse in that. That's cruel. You're not wrong. You would change bits and then wonder what happened to the gait. Now, there's a lot of other things that can factor into it, but let's just talk about the biggest one. There's two reasons. Now, again, if we talk about the horse losing gait, I am assuming that the horse was actually gaiting when you bought him. Big caveat here, a lot of the videos people show me when they bought their horse, the horse wasn't gaiting. It was possibly doing a stepping pace, okay? And that, to me, is not what I'd call a good gait. Yes, it's 4-beat. Sometimes it can be smooth, but I'm talking about an actual, even 4-beat gait. We're going to call it a saddle rack, or if you want, the horse was foxtrotting or running walk. So if you have a horse that was actually gaiting, and until I see proof, I won't believe it, I'm sorry, and you bring it home, here's what happens. First problem is many sellers do not educate the owner as to what they need to do to keep the horse smooth. Now, one thing I will say, I know a lot of gaited horse sellers who tell the new owners, you have to ride it in this bit. And often we're talking about a harsh bit, not a gentle bit. And the reason is, if you ride the way they ride, in the saddle and the tack they use, and have tight contact, you might keep the horse gaiting. But there's a lot that goes into a horse gaiting that's not subconscious, but is subtle. So you can take a horse that's, if you bring to me a horse that's gaiting and I ride them, I probably can keep them gaiting. Now, you bring me a horse that's just pacing and a good rider may or may not be able to get them to gait. That's not a guarantee. But a good rider will keep a gaited horse in gait long enough to show them off in a video. Again, we're talking movie magic here. It's a very real thing. In this movie magic that we have, you can ride a horse on the road, potentially going toward home or up a slight hill and with a lot of contact and get a horse to gait. And then when they send the horse home, they don't explain to the owner that, look, if you let this horse get a little bumpy and you don't correct it, the horse will soon learn to stay bumpy. And the horse goes from being perfectly smooth. Let's say the horse comes home and he's an angel. He's exactly what you bought, but very gradually, so gradually you may not even notice it, he starts to get bumpier. He gets bumpier and bumpier, and eventually you went from a smooth gait to something that's very not smooth, especially at speed. A lot of times you'll ride your gaited horse slower than you did when they showed it to you, because most likely when they showed you that horse, they kept it slow, may or may not have taken you on a trail ride. Depends on where you go. Some people are excellent at selling their horses and take you on long trail rides and ride. But if you get a new horse and you're unsure, and so you ride him slower, and then you speed him up and he's not gaiting well, the owner, the seller may or may not have told you what you needed to do to keep that gait. Next thing, we talked about, we talked about the owner not giving you the information, and sometimes that's all it is. They don't explain to you, they don't give you a DVD or resources to follow up. Some of them may offer to help, and that's great, but they may or may not be teaching you this. They may be telling you lies like this horse will just gait. Okay, next is if you take the horse home and you change things. Now, there's good reasons to change things. If you bought a horse from Kentucky or Tennessee, they may have had long toes, they may have had shoes on the front or around all four, and you may want to get a good angle on the horse and get them so they have good feet. That is excellent, and I completely approve, but be aware these changes could affect the gait. Now, this is not a reason not to do it, but it is something to be aware of. Second, changing the bit. The reason a lot of the gaited horses, if they are gaiting, is because they have them in a big shanked bits. Something that will cause a lot of pain when you put contact. So when you change to a more gentler bit, which again, I definitely approve, you have to go back and retrain that softness. So once again, let's really quickly talk about a shanked bit. If you have a shanked bit, the longer the shank, the more there is a leverage action. So if you put 1 pound of pressure, the horse may feel 7 or 10 pounds of pressure, but you only think you pull 1 pound. So let's say the owner is riding this horse in a shanked bit, and they put 1 pound of pressure on the horse, and the horse feels 7 pounds, and that's when he slows down or stops. If you then ride in, say, a snaffle, or a milder bit, and you put 1 pound of pressure, which is what happened when you tried, that horse will do nothing until it feels 7 pounds of pressure. So if you have a snaffle and you thought you only had to pull 1 pound, 7 pounds is 7 times as many as 1 pound, right? So now, if that horse ever learned to tuck his head, he might have learned to tuck it with 12 or 15 or 20 pounds of pressure, and you're only putting 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 10, and that's not enough. But you think if you pull harder, you're being cruel. Well, you kind of are, because that was how the horse was trained. So if you change the bit, expect to have to go back and retrain. But this is a good thing. I am definitely not advocating for you to keep riding in one of those harsh bits. But be aware that as an owner, it's on you to learn how to get your horse to be well behaved in a different bit. Chrissy says, a lot of times stubborn new owners think they can change 100% of everything with the horse immediately and complain why it doesn't gait anymore. All right. Tina. Hi, Tina. She said, yes, she's catching it live. April says, I think that's what happened with my 22-year-old spotted saddle horse, Mandy. She was ridden by kids and other people before I owned her, and I don't think they made her gait. When I got her, she was very trotty. Each time we ride, we correct her when she breaks into a trot. She's doing better each time we ride. Perfect. I don't get to ride much, so for me, I think she came a long way since I bought her 9 months ago. That's April. Perfect. You're doing it exactly right. Tracy says, interesting. If you have any comments, go ahead and post them below and I will answer. Okay, so we talked about if you change the shoes and the angles in the feet, which you probably should so that it fits the horse and is good for the horse. And if you change to a gentler bit or a bitless bridle, expect that you're going to have to retrain to get gait. And again, we're assuming the horse was gaiting. The other thing is just how you ride. Okay, so it's not about sitting a certain way or giving a special cue, but if you're riding the gaited horse and they start to get bumpy, if you do nothing, I guarantee your horse will stop gaiting. I guarantee it. If you're riding your gaited horse and the horse was gaiting and they get just slightly bumpy and you do nothing to correct it, do nothing to fix it, I guarantee that your horse will stop gaiting. The other thing that will happen is you're a new rider. This is not, you're someone new the horse doesn't know. If your horse gaits and you don't stop and praise for that smooth gait, your horse doesn't know that's what you want. He might have known the previous owner that's what they wanted, but you need to be like, thank you for being smooth. That's what I wanted. And your horse is going to go, oh, light bulb moment. I got it. That movement, that's what she wants, or that's what he wants. If you don't do those things, if you change everything, and again, don't correct when the horse gets out of gait, your horse is going to lose his gait. Now, let's talk about, are you ruining your horse by doing those things? Absolutely not. Horses are wonderful. You can train them. You can modify their training. You can give them a complete new set of cues. It doesn't matter the age of the horse. You absolutely can retrain and train them to gait, and to gait in a halter, in a snaffle, in whatever you want, with a different saddle as long as it fits, and with you being a totally different rider. Pat says, I was given lessons before I could take the horse home. Excellent. I was new to riding gaited horses, so I needed lessons. Still, my horse was green, only ridden at 4 and lightly for a year. He instructed me to lift my hands when he became rough. Well, Pat, if your horse is trotty, that's not incorrect. Like, that's fine. As long as he told you that you need to put your hands back down, and that lifting your hands is only true if they're trotting. If they're pacing, it won't do anything, but I'm so glad they had you take lessons. That's fantastic. Hi, Patrice. Chrissy says, I realize not everyone is interested in being a trainer, but I encourage people to buy a young horse and start it how you want the horse to respond to you as a rider. Whether you do your own training or you have someone like Ivy do the training, it's easier to get the horse you want in the end. Yeah, and we're actually seeing more people go that route, but I think people need to have, not Chrissy, she had realistic expectations of her horse, but you have to be realistic if you buy a young horse. It's not a finished horse. And then if you do get an older horse that's calmer or has seen more, understand you have to take time getting to know what that horse actually does know. So remember, you are not ruining your horse if you bought them gaiting and they're not gaiting now. You can totally retrain that. That's what I'm here for. That's what other gaited trainers are for. That's what Stop and Praise is for, is to retrain what that horse, knows or thinks that you want. And that is really fun. Now, Chrissy makes a good point here, and maybe I should do a video on this. What if you're not a trainer? What if you don't think of yourself as a trainer for horses, gaited or not? Bad news for you. Gaited horses kind of require you to be a little bit of a trainer. Now, there are some horses out there that just gait, and that is wonderful. Be happy you have one of those. If you have a horse that doesn't gait right now, you have to learn at least, not like a trainer that rides a bucking bronco, but you have to at least be willing to train the gait. We're not talking about a finished horse, but you need to understand that it is going to take training. And if you don't agree with this, please don't come to any of my clinics. Watch the free videos if you want. Don't come to my clinics because it's about training. Tina says, my mare was ridden and trained with a bit, tight noseband, and shoes with weights to tolt, but she was pacing. And Icelandic training, they gave her a year off and started her with GW. I'm not sure what GW is. And then bitless. Oh, so Tina gave her horse a year off and started bitless and walking to start with. She's slowly getting the correct muscles to tolt. Yeah, her mare was very nervous and spooky, reactive, and so she's had to start totally from the beginning, and she did a lot of groundwork. That's totally fine. A lot of people are in a rush. Oh, GW, groundwork. Thanks, Tina. That makes sense. Groundwork and bitless. A lot of people are in a rush to get that gaited horse and get out in the trail and have fun, but that's not always realistic. And it's not always what's good for the horse. April says, I wouldn't know anything about my spotted saddle horses if it weren't for you and your videos. Aw. No one I know rides gaited horse. I had to learn from scratch, and you've helped me tremendously. That's so nice of you to say that, April. I'm so glad it's been helpful. Thank you guys. I could keep going. I love getting comments and reading them. It's so fun. I hate talking about this all the time. The schedule is coming soon. We're having a couple of glitches in terms of scheduling 2 of the clinics. The schedule will probably go live the first week in January. Also, the private training group, it is still open and it's still $99 this year. It's going up to $200 next year. So if you haven't joined, you can do that and you'll get an email with instructions to join the group on Facebook. So hopefully that helps you. You're not ruining your horse. There are reasons your horse loses the gait. And good news is, one of the things you can do to help other riders is share my videos. It's free. Share the videos so other gaited people can see them and learn how to get their horses to gait. That helps them, and it helps me, and it helps us change the gaited industry out there. So Thank you guys so much for watching. Stay warm. You got this.